Well, Mr. Stevens, on hand for the arrival of the Whittaker, I presume.
That's right, Lambert. I can hardly wait to meet this young chaplain that Oglethorpe is bringing with him.
Whitfield? Is that his name?
That's right. Surely you've heard of him, your being a writing man and all that.
Actually, that's why I'm here, Stevens. After that story came out about him in the Gazette, well, I'll not be outdone.
He's well worth writing on, Lambert. The man who crowded London churches every day.
I know. He even posted constables to keep order. Well, I'm here to see him for myself. What with the Wesley business, and that girl, what was her name? And now this spectacular preacher, the churchmen are keeping the Gazette business in first-rate condition.
We greet our friends everywhere with Chapter 11 of Apostle of Two Continents, the story of George Whitefield. This is another in the series Stories of Great Christians and comes to you from the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago.
Goodbye, Reverend Whitfield. I shall always remember your words.
Thank you. Goodbye. God be with you.
So long, Chaplain. I'll never forget you.
Go with God, my friend, and remember, he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it unto the day of Jesus Christ.
You pray for me, Chaplain. You hear?
I will, often.
Whitfield, Chaplain Whitfield, welcome to Georgia. I am William Stevens, member of General, or I should say Governor Oglethorpe's staff. We've heard a great deal about you. You're no stranger by reputation.
I wanted to say goodbye to you, Chaplain, before you got away. I must say it's been an unexpected pleasure having you aboard.
Thank you, Captain. Excuse me, Mr. Stevens. I'm happy to meet you, too.
My name is Lambert, Chaplain Whitfield. I represent the Gazette here in Savannah, a weekly journal of events and, comments. I wonder if you would answer a few questions for me.
I'm sorry, all this confusion. Could your questions wait?
I just wondered how you enjoyed this trip. I can ask you other things later.
Look, Mr. Gazette man, the Reverend here is at a touch of the fever. It isn't up to this kind of thing yet. I can tell you what you want to know. Why don't you leave the bloke alone?
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you aren't well, Chaplain Whitfield. We were hoping you'd start right out tomorrow morning holding services.
I hope to do just that, but I'm afraid I'll need a bit of rest between now and then.
Poor fellow rose right up out of his sickbed to give a benediction to the passengers and crew this morning. Bless the lot of us, but it didn't do him no good. Say, maybe you'd be interested in one of the most unusual services I ever saw on the way over.
Possibly.
Come on over here, and I'll tell you about the chaplain preaching to 3 ships at the same time.
If you'll come with me, Chaplain Whitfield, I'll get you to your rooms immediately.
Thank you. I would appreciate that.
And don't worry about your luggage. I'll have someone attend to that personally.
The crowds, the excitement, this warm welcome. I only hope Governor Oglethorpe will receive as large a reception as he's afforded me.
I say, Mr. Stevens, where is Chaplain Whitfield? I came especially hoping to hear this wonder preach.
I'm told he conducted the early service, but was too badly set back with the fever that he had to be taken to his bed. Poor chap.
Oh, you're told. I see I'm not the only one who doesn't rise in time for the early service.
Chaplain Whitfield, I wonder if I could trouble you for... Oh, Lambert, I didn't know you were here.
Please sit down, Mr. Stevens. I've been promising this poor fellow I'd talk with him ever since I arrived. And when I haven't been ill, I've been running around the city or the countryside. At any rate, over a month has passed, and I must fulfill my promise.
Yes, sit down, Mr. Stevens. I think some of this man's observations will interest you.
Well, of course, Chaplain Whitfield has been here only a short time, Possibly too short a time to fully comprehend the many facets of our colonial life.
Why are you so defensive, Mr. Stevens? You don't even know what the Reverend here has been saying. And incidentally, I think he's adjusted very quickly and very well to the many facets of our colonial life. Now, we were talking about slaves, Chaplain Whitfield.
Yes, I believe you had just mentioned the topic.
As you know, Governor Oglethorpe has issued laws forbidding the selling of intoxicants and the possessing of slaves.
On the issue of intoxicants, I'm completely with him.
I thought as much. But what about slaves? Rumor has it that you hold different views than the governor on that subject.
That rumor is correct.
Something caught in your throat, Mr. Stevens? Help yourself to the water there. I'm sure the chaplain won't mind. Now, what about the owning of slaves?
Well, I think it's bordering on ridiculous to forbid slave ownership.
Really, Chaplain, Governor Oglethorpe's decision was not hastily made. He states, and states well, I believe, that slave ownership is against the laws of God. And even more practically, slave labor starves out the poor freemen here in the colony.
Mr. Stevens, if slave ownership were expressly against the laws of God, in my opinion, that would be the more practical consideration.
Well, of course, naturally. You're the chaplain, you must think that.
And as for the other reason, I think it is equally hard to justify the law from an economic viewpoint. After all, as the land ownership laws stand at the present, each man is given an equal-sized plot, whether the land is good, bad, or indifferent, and only sons can inherit family land holdings. Well, in many cases right here in Savannah, families are finding it difficult to work their land without help. These laws were aimed at equality, I'm sure, but the principles were not devised with the specific situation here in mind. As it is now, it's somewhat like the government tying a man's legs and then bidding him to run.
I say, I hope you'll go over that again. I'd like to get it all in print.
Understand, I'm not in any way in favor of the mistreatment of slaves. I do believe that God's Word has definite things to say on that subject. I even welcome the opportunity to speak with any of the slave race about the things of God. I believe that the gospel is meant for every creature of every race, that Christ died for all mankind, whether white or dark, or red, like the thousands of Creek Indians hereabout.
I say, I nearly forgot. That's why I'm here. Tomo Chichi is dying.
I beg your pardon?
Tomo Chichi, that famous Indian chief, you remember.
He's the one they took over to England about 4 years ago. He spoke with George II.
Oh, yes, I didn't remember that was his name. He's dying, you say?
Yes, and some of us felt you ought to speak with him while you can.
Is he converted?
No, not to my knowledge.
Then by all means, let us go. I'm afraid I'll have to postpone the rest of our chat, Mr. Lambert, unless you'd like to come along.
Try to keep me away.
I don't really think we accomplished much. If only we'd known a common language.
Poor fellow. Of course, he was very near death all the time we were talking. And he was an Indian, after all.
That was the most honestly moving preaching I've ever heard, Chaplain. You're all right.
Oh, yes, very effective. The way you pointed to his small fire when you spoke of hell.
Effective? I doubt that. Tomochichi died expecting some paradise for which he made no provision while he lived. Let us go back to Savannah, shall we?
So it says, Reverend Dawson, how can you, a minister of God, justify your drinking?
And what did you say?
I says to him, that's easy. I never mix business and pleasure. I'm not drinking while on duty.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Then perhaps you could answer this question, Reverend Dawson.
If it isn't the new chaplain coming right in here.
So you never drink while on duty, eh, Dawson?
That's right.
Maybe you can tell me then. When is a minister of God not on duty?
You wait till you've been here a while, Chaplain. You might not be so lily-white yourself.
Dawson, I really am ashamed. I'd heard that you'd taken to this kind of thing, that you'd left your pulpit for the tavern. But somehow, hearing about it...
And seeing it are two different things. Yeah. Of course, I know. I'd say the same thing if you and I were reversed right now. I know all the phrases, Chaplain Whitefield. I'm a minister of God myself, you know.
I wonder.
As a matter of fact, I have you to thank for setting my theology straight. I might have missed all this fun if it weren't for you.
I beg your pardon.
That's right. I always thought good, clean living was the way to heaven, you know. The straight gate, the narrow way, and all that stuff.
Go on.
Well, then you came on the scene. Along with that, I've read of Martin Luther. He showed me that I was all wrong. Faith, that's the only way. Faith. Doesn't matter what you do, where you go, just as long as you got faith, you're in.
That's right.
Look around you, Chaplain. Every drunken lout in this fine establishment is a good Christian. Now, I've been preaching to him. Preaching your message. Faith. Ask any of them.
Ask me, Chaplain. I'm a convert. I used to think I had to go to confession every week before I could come out drinking. But the Reverend here showed me the light. Now I don't worry none about any of it. My sins are forgiven. My sins of yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
And all the people said,
Amen.
It's like a nightmare. Can you all be serious? Can you believe that God saves you that you might sin more freely?
Don't bother these good fellows with theology, Chaplain. Theology for the theologians is my dictum. We're saved by the blood. That means all our sins are gone.
We believe we got faith. It don't matter what we do now. We're saved.
Yes.
Oh, he's right.
Your faith, your belief is of the devil.
Now, just a minute, Chaplain. It's orthodox as can be. I'll quote you scriptures by the score to prove it.
Sure, you can do it.
What makes you think the devil is not orthodox?
Huh?
Does not the devil believe in God? Does not the devil believe in God's Son, Jesus Christ? Did not the devils of hell witness to whom he was many times when he was on earth? Does not the devil accept heaven, hell? In point of fact, every doctrine and belief we call orthodox? The devil is solidly orthodox in his beliefs and outlook, believe me. But there's one thing the devil is not.
Maybe we could talk about this outside.
No, Reverend Dawson, I believe this is the exact place to talk about it. Right here among your flock. Because it occurs to me that the one thing that the very orthodox devil is not is the same thing that you, those who think and act like you, are not.
And that is?
And that is godly.
Chaplain Whitefield, I don't have to tell you that since you came to Georgia, you've been one of the strongest unifying forces at work here. I've seen many divisions among the people, but I've seen you pull these people together. You've even managed to pull me right into the flock of the Great Shepherd.
Christ has a flock in all places, Lambert. God be praised that we are of this flock.
And so we conclude Chapter 11 of Apostle of Two Continents, the story of George Whitefield. This is another in the series Stories of Great Christians and comes to you from the Moody Bible Institute in Chicago.